type of scam that, like, when you go on Twitter and you see somebody posting like, help this Palestinian child, like, a lot of that's like Indian people running accounts and scams like the same way. Like, it's scamming all the way down.
Welcome back to another episode of Truth Disorder. I'm Ernest.
G-Strang! Like goal, like golazo.
Golazo.
G-Strang, golazo. Okay.
It's Charles, and Gary's strangling D's.
Heard
that.
These nuts. Go. And the mayhem.
So today, what are we talking about? We got a little bit. So, kind of interested in visiting just kind of how the Fed was formed during the Titanic, World War I. I want to visit that. I want to have a women's appreciation segment as well. And of course, we have our hashtag FLF, stands for F Larry Fink segment. And yeah, I think that's the most I'm ready to touch on. Actually, and also a little bit of good old Israel and the Jewish people. I have a perspective that I'd like to
we got eyes rolling over here.
to speak. Yeah, to speak.
I didn't roll. I was looking.
No. So, if I may,
I mean, I was gonna bring it up too. I was gonna talk about Fuentes and Carlson, but let's start with that.
love that.
But they talked about that pretty heavily.
They did.
That
for
was the topic of the discussion.
I'm an hour into that podcast and I love it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny?
Telling you.
As I was going to say a moment ago, I actually saw a Instagram reel on the way here, and the lady was like weirded out because she's sitting in her vehicle and it's like a radio station playing a broadcast, and it's kind of like one of those adopt a pet, or like every 10 cents or every dollar you donate goes to help save a pet type ad, except it was for the Jews.
Yeah, it was for old Jewish women in Israel. Yeah, I used to get those. My dad used to get those when we were living in Chicago, actually.
And she was literally like, what the, like, WTF?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Well, and it's also it's the same type of scam that, like, when you go on Twitter and you see somebody posting like, help this Palestinian child, like, a lot of that's like Indian people running accounts and scams like the same way. Like, it's scamming all the way down.
Kind of like CUFI, maybe?
Yes, 100% like CUFI. I had to think about that for a second. But Gary, well, why don't you get us into it, and then
For sure.
we can pivot over to the podcast. 'Cause I really think there's a lot of interesting content in that.
Yeah. So there's someone I've been following since COVID, and he talks a lot of prophecy. He's very biblical. His name is Donnie Darkened on X. Donnie Darkened bases a lot of what he says. Honestly, man, a lot of the Trumpers aren't going to be very happy with the kind of things that he's correlating when it comes to Revelations in comparison to, the possibility that, our POTUS number 47 is part of the false light conspiracy. But again, he bases a lot of his stuff biblically. I do sense there is, it's one thing to say that to criticize Israel is anti-Semitic. I'm not in that camp. But I do feel like that does provide, like, even with the stuff that does have weight and does make sense, it does start to go into the Jewish people and the Jewish people being attacked, and I do feel like that is anti-Semitic. But then again, it's also just anti-human to not be realistic about circumstances. So with that, Donnie Darkened had a post that I read through, and I thought it was really neat because he kind of just clarifies kind of like that nation state Israel versus the Jewish people construct, and the divide in between, and what it really means through what the Bible says. So I'll just get into it. So he says, so many people misunderstand what it means that Israel is chosen. It doesn't mean God loves them more. It doesn't mean automatic salvation. It means he chose them to reveal himself, his justice, his mercy, and his faithfulness through their story. From the beginning, God told Israel he didn't choose them because they were great or righteous. He chose them to show his character through a people who would constantly wrestle with him. Through their rebellion, he reveals his justice. Through their repentance, he reveals his mercy. Through their survival, he reveals his faithfulness. When God made his covenant with Abraham and reaffirmed it through Moses, he set Israel apart for his purposes. That's what chosen means. It's corporate election, not automatic salvation. Within that chosen nation, there has always been a believing remnant. Elijah learned that lesson when God told him there were still 7,000 who hadn't bowed to Baal. The same pattern runs through the wilderness generation. All were chosen, but only those with faith entered the promised land. Being chosen doesn't save you. Faith does. That's why Paul says in Romans 9, not all who are descended from Israel are Israel. There's ethnic Israel, the nation, and there's spiritual Israel, those who walk in faith. In Romans 11, he calls Israel the natural branches of God's olive tree. Some were broken off because of unbelief, and Gentiles were grafted in by faith. But Paul warns, don't grow arrogant. If God didn't spare the natural branches, he won't spare you either. So Israel is still chosen, not because they're perfect, but because God's promises are. He is faithful even when they are not, and their story is a mirror for ours. When we see Israel's unbelief, it's meant to humble us, to remind us of our own need for mercy. When we see their discipline, it warns us not to grow proud. When we see their preservation, it proves God's covenant. Love never fails. Almost done. Scripture says a day is coming when the remnant of Israel will finally recognize their Messiah. According to Zechariah 12:10, they will look upon me whom they have pierced. That moment will not come because Israel suddenly becomes righteous, but because God keeps his word. So yes, Israel is still chosen, but chosen means being held to a higher standard, not given a free pass. It means being used as the vessel through which the whole world learns who God really is. And the warning is, those who harden their hearts against Israel, who curse what God has called his own, are aligning themselves against the very plan God is fulfilling. He may use them as tools of judgment for a time, but they won't share in the blessing of his mercy when it's revealed. Let's stay humble, let's stay grafted in by faith, because the story of Israel isn't just their story, it's the story of God's faithfulness to all who believe.
Interesting.
It's a lot. I mean,
it's a lot to digest, but I think ultimately what the kind of where you started off with there, where, you know, it's anti-Semitic to be against the actual Jewish people. I agree 100% with that, right? Where I think most people are lost or misinterpret is kind of the foundational where God outlines who Israel actually is, right, in the Bible, right? Israel is a given name to Abraham's people, I believe is the context in the Bible, not to a holy land. It's not the land that they inherited or that they take from Palestinians, but it's the land that they've, or the people or the body of people that are descendants of Abraham.
But the Bible also says that God will reveal himself over Jerusalem. So still Jerusalem, the place, is still... it still has significance, and who inhabits that land still has significance,
right? And it's funny too, because, and not really funny, but as awkward as it sounds, I read a statistic that said like 30% of prophecy that's in the Bible happened in Egypt, I believe, which is on the other side of the Red Sea before he parts the sea, in which we now know as Israel. Most of the majority in the early days of biblical era were taking place in Egypt. So it's hard to tell, right? Like, is the true Jerusalem in Egypt, or is it actually was Israel part of Egypt at one point?
No,
I'm not a geologist.
I'm not going to go on on a conspiracy tangent in that regard, because I do think that we have the temples there, we have the actual proof of where the tomb of where Jesus was, right? Like,
right.
All of this stuff is trackable, it's mapped out, and it's been passed down. So I mean, I'm not going to go that far. I mean, I do think that a lot of things have been put out there to distract us, to kind of muddy the water of what's really happened. Like there's stuff that's come out that is the truth, and it sounds insane, but then bad actors will come in and throw in a little bit extra to make it sound even crazier, and then the people that don't have discernment for whatever reason, or want to believe what they want to believe, then they just believe everything. And that goes into, we've talked about that too, goes into the flat earth conversation. It goes into so many different conversations, but the whole reason is to just keep us lost and distracted and focused on the wrong things.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that type of distraction, and it was the NKVD, the KGB, who came up with the whole idea of having agitprop members of society go out and put out these like false ideas. And I'm sure it's been part of like secretive government practices forever, but that's probably the most salient example we can come up with. I do think that there's always going to be a large amount of misinformation mixed in, and just because somebody repeats it doesn't mean that they understand what they're doing too. I would also point out.
Well, and just think of how amplified that is nowadays, right? Because back in that day, it was all word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So as far as the foot could travel, the mouth would spread news, right? Now it's all at the click of a button,
yes.
right? Like
it's like that point that I brought up a couple of shows ago, where it's like back in the olden days, if you wanted to fuck your toaster, well, you would tell people and they'd be like, you're a weirdo, stop trying to do that, and then you'd be fine. Now you can go online and find a community of people who tell you not only should you fuck your toaster, but it's a good thing to do it. It's very similar in that way where
it's a better thing than to not fuck your toaster.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, mind viruses are so much more capable of moving and spreading now.
I think Rob Schneider would love that clip of you saying this.
I don't know.
I can see him going down the toaster fucking rabbit hole.
Maybe.
Especially after now he might be a fan of Truth Disorder.
who knows?
Yeah, and I mean
Got the retweet.
On that note, for your weekly BlackRock segment, for the next viral clip, hopefully, Rob gives us a little love on this again because he is my comedy hero. What are y'all's thoughts on Rob Schneider, by the way, before we get into this?
I literally have never thought about Rob Schneider.
Okay, that's disrespectful. How about you?
I'm a fan.
You're a fan?
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I rock with Rob.
You rock with, that's hard to say. Rock with Wob.
Rock
with
Wob.
Rock.
Yeah, I'm walking with Wob right
I'm
now.
walking
I'm
with
literally,
Wob.
I'm literally walking with Wob right now.
Walking with Wob. No, I mean, I've been a fan of Rob Schneider for years now.
Do you know who Rob Schneider is, or is he before your time?
I know that he exists. I know that he's a person. I know that he vaguely has done comedy. I think I might have seen him on Kill Tony once.
Have
Am
you
I
seen Deuce
hallucinating
Bigelow, Mel
that?
Gigolo?
No.
Waterboy.
I have seen Waterboy, but I didn't make the connection in my head.
You can do it.
Also, that was probably
Oh
like
no,
one of the,
we suck again.
that was one of the last.
It's like the most iconic emoji for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, true.
At least you're not a Browns fan.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy taking the Browns to the Super Bowl. I'll say that.
That's what's up. Is it healthy?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Okay, so on your weekly segment of BlackRock, breaking, according to Kunal Shah on IG, BlackRock just sold $978 million worth of Bitcoin hours before the market collapsed, and the media called it risk management. But nothing about this was accidental. Here's why. October 17th, 2025, Bitcoin down 12%, Ethereum down 16%, 1.6 million traders liquidated. In the same window, BlackRock quietly exited nearly $1 billion. They didn't panic sell, they pre-planned the chaos. Let's see how. The setup began in 2023 when Bitcoin ETFs were approved. Oh, our good friend Larry Fink called crypto the digital gold of our generation. That one quote, pump price is 48%, but ETF approval didn't free crypto, it centralized it. BlackRock gained the back door to move billions without touching public exchanges. Policy equals profit. While headlines hyped innovation, BlackRock execs sat in Fed and Treasury meetings. The SEC delayed every rival ETF. Result, one funnel of capital. Regulation was never about safety, it was about control of liquidity. Then came the perfect storm. Trade war tariffs announced, markets panic, Bitcoin dumps, BlackRock exit first. Too early equals insider or foresight. Too precise equals algorithmic timing. Pump with narrative, dump with policy. Same place since 2008. Follow the money trail. Their Q2 filings, mass rotation from crypto to short-term treasuries. Why? Because fear creates yield. Fear does a lot. When investors run to safety, BlackRock owns the safe assets too. They profit from both the fall and the refuge. Now, the global chessboard. As BRICS pushed de-dollarization, BlackRock quietly moved billions into Hong Kong and Singapore funds. They weren't escaping chaos, they were front-running it. By the time crisis hits, they're already on the winning side. Most people panic when the system shakes. I used to as well, until I realized something. The elites don't build empires of labor, they build empires of assets. So, this guy suggests, instead of fighting the system, build your own. Thoughts?
I mean, I've always had kind of I guess a bias outlook on BlackRock. I got into
From like a real estate perspective?
not only a real estate perspective, but just on an investment standpoint. I've always seen these big corporations highlight that they own X amount of dollars in these cryptocurrencies. I got into cryptocurrency back in 2014 and got really big into the exchanges, learning about the different things and how they actually were going to be used, tokenized, how they were minted and all that other good stuff, right? Like, got really big into it. And one of the big things that stood out to me was when these big investment portfolios started buying crypto and how they were so forefront in how much they were actually buying. My little light bulb in my head went off, and it was kind of like, it brought me back to like, who owns the banks, right? Like, where's all the money? Where's that type of stuff?
Seems like the easiest market to manipulate,
and
honestly.
it was the easiest way to grab at wealth amongst middle class, right? I think in 2015, 16 is when we started really seeing that shift of middle class becoming more of like a higher middle class, right? Households generally had more income. They were starting their own businesses. They were creating their own generational wealth for themselves.
Generational.
Yeah, generational wealth for myself and others.
We have a drinking game where you talk like
little-
Elmer Fudd.
Thuckatash.
Stuffer and thuckatash.
I can't. I really can't quite do that. It's more of like a little bit special more than anything, really.
Okay.
But
we're canceled.
but when
You left your helmet at home today, I see.
dude, my helmet's out. You ever seen Crankakers?
Yes.
Yeah, I peed in your pool.
That's probably the most accurate impression he's ever done in his
But
life.
getting this generational wealth, right? So middle class starts to actually.
Well, okay, so what era are we talking about?
We're talking like 2015, 16. We saw this maybe like 28 to 35-year-olds start to have more wealth in their households, in their income, in what they own, their possessions, their assets, everything like that. And what BlackRock saw was an opportunity, right? BlackRock goes, oh, hey, let's start investing in cryptocurrency because all these people think they're first to the trend, right? Which, yeah, was the case, but it was the easiest way for them to go grab and take your financial assets with the rug pulls that we saw exchanges get pulled down after massive purchases by these investment portfolios. You had like Bittrex go down and labeled as security. You had Binance get labeled as security.
Yeah, I remember that.
You had BitConnect get labeled as security, right? And all these big exchanges where a lot of these middle class individuals
Trojan horses almost.
had their wealth in now because they were making money and compounding that money and buying these tokens for the future, now have that rug pulled. But now we see that BlackRock has an estimated $118 million transferred as of October 27th in Bitcoin and over 25,707 Ethereum transferred from Coinbase. So I
Didn't
feel
the
like
whole exchange actually go under, like a Chinese exchange or something like that?
well, that's what I was saying. Bittrex went under.
Yeah.
And they didn't go under. So what happens with these exchanges is these exchanges have these tokens, right? And the tokens are kind of like the stock market, right? You have stocks on the market where you can actually go buy. Well, the exchanges, what was happening is they were allowing tokens to get onto their exchange that were getting labeled securities. Then the U.S. government gets involved, or the federal government gets involved, because now this exchange is allowing people to exchange tokens that are labeled securities, and it just creates this loophole.
Question for Charles. Have you seen any of those YouTube videos of folks that are, I mean, definitely much smarter than me, but they're talking about how the market manipulation actually follows an exact formula that has been repeated since market manipulation became a thing in the exchanges?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it was.
They actually map it out. Like they show the line. Like this is where they buy.
I mean, you can go to
Fibonacci's one thing.
Well, I mean,
that's more official.
Beyond that, you can actually go to a site like Unusual Whales. If you buy a membership with them,
Whales, by the way.
Like if you go there, you can literally. I base my trades off of that. I do puts and calls. I'm paying my rent this month with the puts and calls money that I've made.
Nice.
What I think is, it's not even like, I think that patternicity may line up because there's just a natural tendency for things to follow patterns. But really what it is when you have enough money, you can just kind of do things.
Yeah.
Scott Bessent, actually, remember he was the one, I believe he was the one who broke the Bank of England. Let me double check that.
I love that.
Broke the bank.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Let me see. I just want to make sure he's the right guy. Yeah, it's the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. He did the same thing with Argentina, actually. What he did was he bought the dip on their peso when Milei was in the middle of his midterm run. He just won his midterm run. Now the money's going back up, and he used Treasury assets to do so, and he was able to, I think he created like $185 billion worth of wealth for the United States just by doing that. When you have enough money and you can move a market that way, you can just kind of break the market just by existing, you know?
Yeah. It's very true. Like when you become that whale, you know, like the him whale.
Well, and that's what I thought. That's what my that's what my theory goes into, like with BlackRock, is
I like that term.
By getting these exchanges kind of shut down or taken down, think about what happens to all those online wallets. Right, like everybody that has an online wallet that now overnight no longer has access to that online wallet. What happens to all those tokens?
Well, and that's why I always tell people whenever they're talking about getting into crypto, I'm like, first you need to understand how to make an offline wallet and have the wallet that you have access to that sits in a literal safe and is only connected to the internet when you plug that bitch into your computer.
Otherwise known as a cold wallet.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And not only that, like the first device you plug it into every time you bring it up should be air gap too. Like there's so many little things that go into it.
I used to call my ex-wife a cold wallet.
Damn, it's good. But no, I mean, like really, the problem with BlackRock is too, and I think it shows. I think here's the thing too. If we want to bring it to what's happening in political consciousness, I think that old school style, like the Massey and the Paul, the free market, that's going away. People my age don't believe in that because we see a company like BlackRock just completely subsume and consume a market because they're a hedge fund. They have the ability to do so.
I think it's
you
the
wonder
follow-along.
Why should that be legal?
Yeah,
why is that legal for them to do that?
They decimate.
We should crush them.
They decimate and then consume.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And
Well, that's where I was going with that. Like,
It's kind of like the
normal way,
Maui fires and the fires in Los Angeles. It's the same thing.
Yes, the beauty of capitalism is the ability to earn your way in order to have the power and the resources to consume. But what they do is they decimate, destroy, evaporate, literally, quite literally, honestly, and then consume that way. And
so
it's just as
so
warfare.
I think we'll see in the
warfare.
future. I think in the future we're going to see a form of national capitalism, very similar to what we saw with National Socialism, just aligned around a different incentive structure for finance.
see, and I saw. So I
That's
saw
what we're
that
going to see.
first. So I saw that
This is actually
firsthand.
playing into the next thing. Beautiful.
I saw that
segue.
firsthand. Just a quick personal story on the exchanges, right? Because we were on Bittrex in 2016. We were on Bittrex, and there was a token named called SafeX. It was supposed to create an offline Alibaba marketplace for the first cryptocurrency.
Yep.
It actually had a lot of use cases, and it was getting a lot of steam. The guy was based out of, I believe it was Finland, that built it. And what happened was that token actually started taking off because people actually saw the use case behind it. And Bittrex rug pulled it, ended up rug pulling it. And literally in a matter of 5 minutes, I think I had over like 700,000 tokens of SafeX, like literally just rug pulled it.
Rug pulled the whole
Like
thing.
you have 10 minutes to withdraw your tokens, put them into an offline wallet. So basically have a cold computer because it's in there, and they're basically useless. But what I think happens oftentimes is when these exchanges go down, it wouldn't surprise me if these big portfolio investors like BlackRock or what's the other one that's starts, it's not BlackRock, but it's Black something, I forget. Blackstone. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually buy these exchange wallets at a deep discount.
Well, actually,
because what happens to all those tokens?
Yeah, no. So here, that's the thing. Is actually, you know, our good homie, our brother at BlackRock, old Larry Finkus, he said, according to Jason Bassler on X, we're beginning to. I don't know what he sounds like. I'm not going to make him sound like.
I could do the voice, but
Do you know his voice? Do you know his
we
voice?
would get canceled instantaneously.
Oh, that makes sense.
It sounds
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Kyle from South Park's cousin, if you understand that reference.
Okay, so translate what I'm saying to that. Okay, translate what I'm saying to that. Okay, so old Mr. Fink said, we're beginning to tokenize all assets. Translation: the same people who crashed the economy in 2008 now want to tokenize your mortgage, your paycheck, your car, your life on a blockchain they control. And to further that, this is Gary speaking to you guys. Old G strang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-dang-a-lang.
All up in that thing.
Legit. I think they're gonna even tokenize power, resources, utilities. Okay, that's just my conspiracy theory. But they're saying the quiet part out loud again. Believe them. If you thought Ring implementing facial recognition was bad, they've just partnered with Flock cameras. Law enforcement can now request footage from your neighbors, turning private cameras into a network of digital informants that normalizes mass surveillance in your community. 24/7 intel hubs are being built to flag anti-ICE protest networks. $30 million contract awarded to Palantir, there's that name again, for license plate scans, social media scraping, location data. They're already targeting Christians at Christian events. That started happening at the Charlie Kirk Memorial to identify and track high-risk individuals. Why would they do that to a bunch of Christians? Crazy. They say it's for Antifa until it's used to target you.
With the tokenization aspect, the thing that I think about with that is I just wonder, like, what's the actual effect? Because when BlackRock buys your mortgage on the secondary market, I don't see a difference between them doing that and then also tokenizing it. Realistically, other than it's a better accounting tool for them to look at it with, which makes it more efficient for them to fuck you, but they were going to fuck you anyways. So, like, for me, it's kind of like, what's the difference?
If I'm going to get fucked, I like a little foreplay. I like it for it to take a while. You know what I'm saying?
I get that. I do. I don't see. I just see it's like. For me, this is the digital difference between having it on paper or having it on a computer, and then they're just doing that same step inside of the system, and now it's just a better accounting tool.
To further,
I don't think it's a good thing, but I'm also not saying like, it's the end of the world.
I mean, this also kind of plays into the possibility because there's actual programs out there that they're claiming, like Minority Report, Tom Cruise movie, that will predict crime. So they can plug all this into patterns. If they sense if your social credit score is not checking out and they cut it off, or they assume that you're thinking about committing a crime for XYZ reasons that the algorithm determines.
So my thing is on that too is like, yeah, they're trying to tokenize everything. I don't know if you're aware or not, but there's a company called Proppy. Have you heard of Proppy?
Yeah.
Proppy uses blockchain technology to record real estate deeds and accelerate closing transactions. My biggest pet peeve with that is we can't even keep our own hard copy surface transactions secure. What makes you think we're going to be able to keep this secure?
I mean, I guess isn't the value proposition of something like that is that it is secure because you need two-factor authentication in order to be able to access it.
Well, it's not necessarily just
given authorization.
Not necessarily just 2FA, but it's not. But with crypto, it's always going to be minted or to be processed in a different location on a different server at any given point in time, right? So that was the big thing with minting coins, was you could set up a server and you don't know where your transactions being actually handled, right? So that was like one of the big things with that. So yes, to your point, yeah, it is supposed to be a little more secure. It doesn't mean there can't be somebody just listening to the line or a backdoor on it. So, but they do offer that. So kind of to your point with good old Finky boy over there. Token. I mean, there's already being softwares and technologies developed to actually expedite that process of completely tokenizing us. I just actually the other day got an email from Ring. I don't know if you have Ring cameras or not, but I got an email from Ring saying that they are going to implement a new feature called Smart Watch, which if there is a missing dog or cat in your area reported and your cameras picked up a dog or cat running loose, that it would give the reporter authorization to access your camera footage.
I don't know. For me, like, I just see all this as an inevitability, and also I think they already can see everything that's happening inside of your home with Wi-Fi signals. Like, that is a legitimate fact if you didn't know that.
We're already all tapped.
Yeah, everything's already tapped out the ass anyways. Now it's just more people getting in on the tapping. I wonder if the tapping will ever stop on our asses, but I know it won't. And it's kind of hard to even care at this point, to be frank with you guys. It's like, I've never experienced anything other than this.
So you're consensually approving ass tapping? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially at this point, because it's like
scale.
It's like when I am on my computer, everything that I'm doing is being monitored by like 8 different groups. Anyways, it's all of this just seems like a moot point to me. It's like we're already way past that.
Well, and the thing about that too is like,
I don't know if the genie can't go back in the bottle.
If anybody at any given point in time ever wanted to, let's just say, know everything, all they have to do is tap AWS servers.
Yeah.
Everybody uses
100%.
AWS servers.
Well, AWS East went down and it was over. Like, right. I mean, there 20 different things that I used just were not functioning.
Well, and that was my thing too with that. It's like, look at the proximity to our federal agencies that those AWS servers are. It's to create a low bandwidth, less frequency like connection between those headquarters.
Yep.
So that there's hardly any
What
latency.
did they get when it was down? What if it was down? Was it a hack? Like, there's so many questions about it. It's like Sony. For me, it's like Sony. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Sony is super famous. They get hacked like every 2 years. Sorry if you're seeing the Sony legal department. It's true. You know it. I know it. You guys get hacked every year.
I remember when PlayStation went down. That was awful. It was like a year and a half. And I think that was
It's every 2 years it happens.
It was actually just a regular hacker that was just pissed off at PlayStation.
No, that's...
Was that a cover story?
They're selling data. Yeah. Like think about people do things for financial reasons. When you get all that customer data, I mean, think about who would be willing to buy that. There's a lot of customer data in there. And then Sony, like this year, they're like, well, actually, we're going to require new safety features on our new console because we want to protect your data better. It's like, well, you idiots can't do it in the first place. So like you're getting more, you're making things harder for the consumer for something you're going to fail at anyways. Right. It's like, why are we doing this?
Isn't that what Wells Fargo's known for, getting hacked?
Let's be careful on Wells Fargo.
Okay.
None of it's been proven in court. Sony has.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of speculation around Wells Fargo and what they've done, and we'll see what happens when that legal case wraps up. I would like to move on to something, too, because we are starting to run out of time here. We have a shorter show today, guys, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Church is calling.
I saw the entirety twice now of the Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson interview. I've never been a huge Nick guy. I think that there were a lot of times that he would get out over his skis on an issue and he was pushing it too quickly. The Overton window has expanded to the point, though, in political discourse where he's able to go on Tucker Carlson and bring up things that I've noticed for years and years. I know he's noticed for years and years. I think the most salient point that he brought up was the fact that the entire Republican political apparatus is engineered to defend a totally different foreign country. Tucker Carlson talked about it a lot in Tucker Carlson's interview with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz literally said, I joined the Senate to defend Israel. I mean, what a thing to say when you're running for the United States Senate, right?
Yeah. It's one thing to say it if you're not getting paid hefty amounts of money for it. It's another thing to say it if you are.
But that's why I was telling you, too, like we were talking about Republicans versus Democrats. It's no longer even a political party affiliation conversation. It's more of like you either support Israel or you don't support Israel.
100%.
And that's what's happening. That's the great divide within our own government system right now. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's like posting almost every single day, like I'm not bought, like, you know,
I didn't kill myself.
I'm not suicide.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, and that more and more that's what's happening with the left too. The left I don't know if you guys know this. The left has always had a propensity to eat itself throughout almost all of human recorded history. Where the left was an idea, it happened. That's why when you see the pictures of Stalin, where it's like him with 4 guys, and then it's the same picture with him with 3 guys, and the same picture of him with 2 guys, it's because they weren't on board with the program. Right now, the left is having a giant civil war that they're covering up, essentially around the fact that they have an entire contingent of people who don't believe that Israel should exist, but they don't think it the way that other people on the right think it. They think about it from a communistic perspective. They see Israel as a bulwark of capitalism and colonialism in the Middle East. And so they don't realize that it's a tail wagging the dog situation. They still think that Israel is a vassal of us when it's the other way around at this point. But really, that's what's going to be happening to the left over the next couple of years. We're going to watch them fall apart more and more because of it. And the right's going to do a similar thing. But really what's going to happen is I think it's going to be a completely untenable position to come out and say that you are massively in support of Israel. It's going to be something that you have to be quiet about, and then something you can't hold even in private. So I also think that Nicholas Funes will eventually run for the president. I don't think he'll win, but I think he will run. So I think he's going to do better than anybody expects him to do.
Two questions there, right?
Yeah.
So, first one's not really a question, but the left is not so much even trying to cover it up anymore, though, right? Because they just recently came out. We have this whole government shutdown stuff happening. They just recently came out and told the Republican side that, hey, we're actually agreeing with you, but we can't agree with you because we can't upset our party because we'll lose our popularity amongst our own party.
Well, what they don't want to have happen is a schism, like in Germany, for example, like there's the Liberal Democratic Party of Germany, the LDP, but then there's also like 3 other splinter factions of leftists, like the Green Party, the Communists and the Socialists, and then like the more moderate left-wing parties. They don't want to have that happen to them, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen whether anybody wants it or not. And what we're going to see is the right is going to have the opposite phenomenon, where the majority of people are hey, like we should be America first. We should be focused on America 100%. We shouldn't be focused on other foreign countries, no matter who they are. And we're going to see a very small subset of the American right who is still like the pro-Zionists, the old school neoconservatives. They're going to be hanging around for a while.
Well, and I think that's also where a lot of people have trouble deciding. And it's not really you shouldn't really be picking sides right now. Like, now's not the time to be picking sides, whether you support it or not support it. You should just really kind of use your resources, use your tools to actually make your own deciding factor as to, what you believe. But the problem with it as well is there's a lot of people, because it's all divided, but there's a lot of people that are Christians especially, who agree that they support Israel, but don't agree that they don't support the government body or governing body of Israel.
Yeah, and I think the hard part is, like, after October 7th, I think there was a large resurgence of pro-Israel sentiment in the American right and a lot of parts of the American left, like Senator John Fetterman. That's why he's not as popular with the left anymore. That's the reason, really, at the core.
Yeah. He sounded ridiculous for a while there.
Yeah,
he did.
But after October 7th, I think what happened was people started asking questions like, hey, how come a country the size of New Jersey wasn't able to defend itself over the course of 6 hours of letting this attack happen? Then it turned into, well, Israel is literally doing an ethnic cleansing of Gaza. I think that most people with a soul and a rational perspective look at that and are like, it's not like I want the Palestinians to live here, but I certainly don't want Israel to be doing that to anybody, especially using our American tax dollars. And it isn't just Israel, it would be any country.
Yeah. You see, and a lot of people don't see too, or you might not even know, but right there along the lines of Gaza, there's a pretty big population of Palestinian Christians, right? Like that are in the middle of this war, and I think that is why some people, even Christians, support Palestine more than they do Israel, because if you think about who's in Israel, right, we think about like the Jews, and this being an ongoing conflict, it's technically a cleansing of Christianity.
I was going to say that. It's like a coordinated targeting, because if you think about where they were pulled out, they bombed the bejesus out of them, and they let them go back. And then if you look at what it used to look like and what it looks like now, it is rubble. Yep. And what are the people in Gaza doing now? Executions, street executions. You dragged them out of their house, bombed the shit out of them. They have nowhere to go. And now they're showing who they are, and then they're killing them in the street.
What I would like to find out, and maybe got to do a little more research, is how many of those people that have been tragically, caught in the middle of this are actually Christian.
Yeah.
Like how many of them are not Islam, but how many of them are actually Christian?
I think the number would be very surprisingly high.
It also begs the question, too, because when we think about Bashar al-Assad, who the ex-president of Syria who had to flee to Moscow, and the fact that his country was relatively secular. I mean, he was a Western-trained oral surgeon, I believe. Yeah. He had many Coptics, many Armenian Christians, and now I mean, it was literally an Al Qaeda guy running the country, and Christianity is no longer allowed there. I think the other aspect that I really think about with this conversation that he had, because Tucker is kind of that old school form of what's happening now on the right. He doesn't really get, I think, what's going on at a small level. At the lower levels here.
Well, even he said he doesn't care. I don't know if he doesn't really care, but he kept saying in that podcast, I don't care.
Well, I mean, he's married, he's rich, he has 5 kids.
Yeah,
why would he care?
Yeah.
Why would he care? It doesn't affect him. That's not a slam on Tucker. That's what we should all hope for.
Right.
But that's just a reality, is that he's not connected in the same way because it doesn't affect him the same way.
Not like he was, right?
Well, he might not have the intel either.
Yeah,
like
he's hanging on the internet all day. That's another big part of it too. He's not terminally online. But then the other aspect that they talked about outside of the Israel aspect was the fact that identity politics, I think, and I remember when it first started happening, and there was the whole that's part of the reason I don't like Candace Owens, because she's like, well, Egyptians are part of Africa and they're black, and she has gone on record saying like, well, like the reason why Africa has not been developed or it never had technology is because of white people. She's literally said those words, which is funny because when the European colonialists showed up in Africa, especially the Dutch, like they didn't have a written language. These peoples, didn't have.
I mean, they did have what is it? The Haruk Konfuga or something like that. They
didn't have the wheel. They didn't have the wheel. No, they don't have the wheel.
We're talking like the Mali Empire, 1500s, 1600s?
No, that's northern Africa.
Before that.
No, we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, the Mali Empire did. They had rich trade networks. And here's the awkward part that I think nobody wants to talk about with the Mali Empire specifically. It was a caste system very similar to India, where the North Africans, who were Mediterranean genealogically, ruled over like the sub-Saharans that had immigrated there or that they had captured and brought as slaves. But my point is that identity politics is something. I'm just saying, Candace holds those opinions. I think they're ridiculous. Identity politics, which was brought out by the left, cannot go back in the bottle. Instead, what it does is it invites white people, who were the only group of people in history that, to my recollection, who were told, hey, everybody's the same, we have to all get along. And I think a lot of people, myself included, believe that, still believe it, want to believe it. But now we see that nobody else actually holds those opinions. And so when we're in a situation where there's a game being played and the only people who aren't allowed to play that game are one specific group of people, that's not going to last. And what we see from Nick Fuentes is he is the first vanguard of this resurgence of white identity. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that in the future, a lot more of that, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to go to a good place, but I think it's unavoidable because the left opened the bottle with the genie, and you can't put it back in. And he brings up the fact, too, that one of the things he admires about the Jewish people and their love for Israel, even if they're secularists, is that they see themselves as a displaced people. They're a diaspora. And that Israel is the place where, as we are all well aware, if you get in trouble in another country, they will accept you back because you're part of their heritage. And I think that a lot of white people are now looking around and wondering, well, we had that and we were told to give it up and we did so willingly, and now the people that we've invited in are telling us that we're evil and that we should hate ourselves. And I think that Nick Fuentes, I think that's why he's going to have the meteoric rise over the next couple of years that he's going to have. Because I think a lot of people are starting to ask that question, like, hey, we were lied to. Like, young white people were lied to.
They're starting to wake up.
We were lied to. We were told that everybody is going to believe that we're all the same and we're all similar. And I mean, you'll see Ilhan Omar, you'll see a supposed conservative like Candace Owens go up there and say, well, the white man's actually the devil. I mean, she didn't say it explicitly, but when she says, well, white people stole everything from Africa, it's like, well, what was there to steal besides natural resources that they were never going to mine themselves? And I
mean, it was the people.
Yeah,
that's what there was to steal.
Agreed. Yeah, but they were also selling themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next.
And the Berbers started the slave trade in the Mediterranean.
And that's actually so the Korukan Fuga, Kourukanfuga, Korukan Fuga. So that was like their an oral constitution, and it was actually very compelling. I read some of those. Bylaws, I guess you can call them, and they're very pro-human. very sensible. I think it was almost like biblically based. They talked about treating your slaves as humans, giving your slaves rights, like slavery literally was indentured servitude. And then the bad actors during that time of the Mali Empire, the second time around, when the colonialists came through, that's when, you know, warring factions start to sell each other, you know, to get benefits from the colonizer.
Well, and also that whole tradition, that idea came from their participation in the Berber slave trade, which is where they were raiding like the southern shores of Italy. They were going as far as like the west coast of France, and they were taking white people and bringing them back and selling them into slavery. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, they're the original evil. I mean, if we play the Who Enslaved Who game, we'll be here for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, but there's an end all be all to this conversation, guys. Plot twist: humans are inherently evil.
Yes.
Right. It is in my nature to, you know, want as much money as possible. It is in my nature to get bitches. Right. Like, but I go against my nature because I now have, you know, that knowledge, the wisdom of the word telling me, hey, you can expect to feel like this, but don't do it just because you want to do it. Simple. It's hard, but simple philosophy.
Yeah. And I'm not advocating any of these positions. What I'm saying is that Nick Fuentes is the starting gun on something that has been brewing and bubbling underneath the surface, I think, for decades now.
So my only complaint, my discernment senses, you know, my spidey senses, what I get from Nick Fuentes that I keep an eye out, is that one, he is inflammatory. He's just another inflammatory person, just like Trump was in 2016. It's not healthy for, you know, just sustainable like unity. That's a big factor that I'm not really. And then he also says something like, to say pro-white, you know, dude, like, can we just be pro-human? Like it's just because everybody else.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying, and remember, like I went to school starting in like 2004. That is what everyone was taught. We were all taught that. Everyone was led to believe that. And now that we've grown up, if somebody else, that works. It's like libertarianism. That really works, and I agree with it in my heart. I think it's the right thing. That works until a single other person doesn't believe it works, and then it doesn't work anymore. That's just not how it is. Like the Indians come over and they immediately start. I remember my dad was in tech. I've seen this happen with my own eyes. I remember when they hired a hiring manager who was Indian, and then literally within 2 years, the entire staff under my father was all Indian. And then he got removed, and then he had to come back and fix it. They paid him a contractor salary to come back and fix it later. No other group of people, with the exception of Americans.
Was that DEI or was that just money saved?
Yeah, it was money saved. Yeah, they're H-1Bs. Yeah. Okay. Well, and then not only that too, like if you hire somebody who is from like Pondicherry, they're gonna bring all their fucking cousins over. Duh, of course they are.
You see that all the time in tech, in software.
And I don't blame them. If I were in their position, I would do the exact same thing. But my point is that the whole we're all humans thing works up until you bring in a group of people who doesn't believe it, or you have an endemic group of people who doesn't believe it.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that it could be represented.
And the only group in the country that's not allowed to say that they are proud of their heritage is white people, and that's been a problem.
Yeah, no,
it should have been rules. Rules should have been applied equally, and they weren't.
But the pendulum just keeps swinging too far to each side, because I mean, you were able to say pro-white back in the racist days. You know, like you know, and it was like, oh well, whites are above blacks and everybody else, and then now it's swinging back this way. Now, oh, whites are the white devil, Quensu Ocha, right? Like, you know, like let's kind of be here, right? And then just if people start to get too far, then we check them, right?
But up until 1965, literally that year, America was a 89% white, 11% black country. And I think that a lot of people are looking around now and wondering why we were dispossessed of that. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that is literally what's happening.
I think there's a huge wealth transfer going on amongst different races, right?
100%.
As well right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like before, and this is what they used against us, right?
And the tools and the tactics that they used to bring the black community down in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s are the same ones that they've been employing against white people now since the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's true.
It's literally they like using the exact same playbook.
Just a different drug.
Yep. Pumping drugs into the communities,
Fentanyl, yep.
encouraging childbirth out of wedlock.
Yep.
And you'll also look too back in the 1960s, like the black population they were on an ascendant rise. They were in many cases. There was Black Wall Street. They had massive amounts of capital in their communities, and they were having more children in wedlock than white people were at the time.
And there's just such a meteoric rise in unspeakable crimes.
Yeah.
Just things are happening that you just...
Yeah, but I think, like, to cap it all off, what we're seeing now is this is a trend that's going to continue and get worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a people problem.
And Nick Fuentes puts a very, very well-polished and well-spoken lens on what's going to happen. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I think it's a good thing,
And
but I
how
think
it's
it's
done.
completely unavoidable.
But what is he exactly saying is going to happen? Is he just talking about like
He's saying the pendulum's going to swing the other direction because people are going to get tired.
There are millions and
I
millions.
could already see the fatigue, though.
There are millions and millions of young white men, and I think also a lot of Latino men, and probably a lot of black men too, who are wondering, like, why are we getting dispossessed in our own country?
True.
For criminals.
For criminals. And I think
for
that's
people who are not America first. That's actually even further, even if they're not criminals.
Yeah.
They're like, why come to a country and be so proud about the country you came from instead of being proud of the opportunity that you've gotten to be here if you did it correctly?
Yeah. And then I think a lot of that's also, I think a lot of his response to it is wrapped up in visibly seeing, I mean, you go on Twitter, you can see the anti-white hatred.
Yeah.
And it's not like I go out and espouse any kind of hatred, but I wonder, why am I the only why am I in the only group that's not allowed to be proud of who they are and what they are? I mean, the language that they're insulting me in are the language that my ancestors created. Think about that for a moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about like I'm Hispanic, right? So we get like Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yeah.
Like we celebrate that here in the States.
Absolutely.
We get almost basically an entire month for us.
You're more like a Werther's original.
I
You're brown on the outside and white on the inside.
No, se habla español muy poquito, so.
Sí.
That was
Gary's
awful.
like, I don't even know what you just said.
Man, it's full.
¿Tú hablas español?
Cuando háblame con despacio, me comprendo.
Sí.
Sí.
So we're Mexican.
Yeah.
We're Texican.
I live in San Antonio. I can 100% understand Spanish. And I also speak French.
Gotta be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even me, like, putting my hat on, like, I see that we get these things and these luxuries. I mean, I don't even agree with it. You know, I'm like, dude, why we don't live in Mexico. Why are we celebrating this?
Here's what I think about all the time. There's a National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Imagine if you made a National Association of White Real Estate Professionals.
I've been saying that since I got in. I never understood.
That's where I was going with that. Is like
every group is allowed to have these things, and we're not.
Not hating on that.
NARAP's a great organization.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the thing, right? Is that's what I've been invited to join that, and it's just something about it doesn't feel right to me. I don't.
The problem is that when you ask the question, why is that allowed, but the other thing isn't? And the answer is, shut up, you're a racist. Mm-hmm. It is the exact same thing as Nick Fuentes was talking about when you say, hey, like, why do we have this weird slavish devotion to a country that's the size of New Jersey and doesn't provide us any economic or political benefit?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
shut up, you're an anti-Semite.
Yeah, anti-Semite, yeah.
It's the same problem, and it's the same grievance, and it's going to end up in the same place, and I wish that it wasn't going that direction, but I don't know what you could do to even stop it at this point.
It's inflammatory.
And not only that, then we see what's going on in Europe, too. And
crimes and rapes are on the rise, crazy.
Why does China not take these refugees?
Japan.
I would never say that about Japan.
It's changing.
Yeah,
it's changing. There's actual riots and stuff now because they're shifting as well.
Well, not only that, the most recent election with the new prime minister and her, I think it's Onada is her deputy foreign minister. Mm-hmm. They're getting them all out. Mm-hmm. They're getting them all out.
But that all plays into the America First stuff plays into Marjorie Taylor Greene's narrative, right? Like that's what she's been very vocal about. You know, she's like, hey, I'm not bought by these guys. Like I'm not, you know.
I guarantee you in 5 years, her position will be indistinguishable from Nick's position today.
But what's funny,
I agree. But also, Fuentes was touching on this in the Tucker Carlson interview, and I thought that was an interesting distinguishment because MTG separated herself from him after they did an event together, and I think she saw his immaturity, his inflammatory nature.
Well, no, she got called out by Media Matters and she had to retract. She went to his event knowing him. She knew who he was.
No, the big media companies don't want you to affiliate with certain individuals, Nick being one of those individuals.
And
so, the other problem for MTG is she looks like a literal Valkyrie, so it's really hard for her to...
But what I was going to go at is, like, even like with
it's
her...
true, she does.
Even with the narrative that she plays...
Her daughter, too, looks like a Valkyrie from Sweden.
The first thing you'll see on X is like, oh, she's just saying that because... she doesn't need to be bought. She's white and owns a construction company that gives her wealth.
So say that story is true. Is that evidence that she may be a shill?
No.
Okay.
No, she was I think that she was doing a cost-benefit analysis equation in her head, and being on that side that early, that open, was not beneficial for her to go and make actual substantive policy changes.
When it was during re-election too, I think.
Yeah, she was in the middle of a campaign. I don't blame her at all.
Yeah.
And I also don't blame Nick for being upset with her. I get it.
Yeah, I get both sides in that case.
Because you got to look at who she was running against.
Yeah.
Which is the other kind of determining factor whether or not she should have affiliated with them.
And not only that, like, we all have to make the political calculus for how we're going to do the most good with the position that we have, right? But I think the biggest thing that I think about with all this too is, and where this is going, is that the most telling thing is that all of the people, like the things that Nick has been saying since 2016, and he and I are the same age, by the way. Think about that for a moment too. The things he's been saying since 2016, the things that he was saying in 2019 are the things that are acceptable to say now. Like I said, I think within 5 years, the Republican platform will mostly be what he's saying today. I really do think it's going that way. And I think that it's unavoidable because there are a lot of people my age, younger and a little bit older, who look around and say, well, we see what's happening in Europe. We see that, because, I mean, like, seriously, and I can't stress this enough, we all grew up and were told, like, hey, everybody's the same, everybody is a person, and I believe that in my heart, but then nobody else plays by those rules, so the rules aren't real, are they? What do we do in that situation?
Hey, David, you made
it.
You made it. What's up,
Oh
man?
my
I'm
God.
tagging out.
Guest
David's tagging
Larry,
in.
before we close out, I got one last update. Let's do the Maha segment by Tony Rogers, PhD. Wait, what? New York Times finally admits genetics can't explain the surge in autism. However, the General MC News breaking. X has removed epidemiologist Nicholas Holscher from search results after he shared a landmark study claiming shots are the leading risk factor for autism. This is our study that appears to, he says, Nicholas Holscher says, he shows a study that appears to have resulted in the removal of his account, and the study is titled The Most Comprehensive Analysis Ever Conducted on the Causes of Autism Finds Shots is the dominant risk factor. So go find him. I looked it up. Nichulscher. Hopefully, he's just being shadow banned and his account is still active. Another great account for any type of research, even more specifically with like COVID. Parsifaler, Parsifaleer. I'm telling you, this world will wake up because of the work being done by independent journalists, independent scientists, independent influencers who are out there who can't be bought and are simply doing this to do their part to save the world. So everybody out there who's independent and doing this out of the goodness of your heart, God bless you, God bless your family, and may Jesus' blood be shed over your family and cover you and protect you and continue to do your thing. From Truth Disorder, I'm G Strang.
I'm Ernest.
Charles.
Y'all have a great week. And David.